highly anticipated Top Golf location in Monona finally broke ground today. More of a symbolic groundbreaking, marking the company's first ever venue in Wisconsin. If you're not familiar with Top Golf, they describe it as a modern golf experience where anyone from people who've never picked up a golf club to those who want to perfect their swing can participate in golf. It's all in a relaxed, no pressure environment.
This is really about having a premier entertainment and recreation facility. It's not about having the best golf game. So I encourage everybody to check it out.
Top Golf in Monona will feature 72 outdoor climate-controlled hitting bays, a full-service restaurant and bar, event space, and an outdoor patio. It's set to open in the fall of 2026.